The story starts from our hero coming against the master at the school after defeating everyone in the dojo. Aluja Chan and her fellow students continued to watch the match between Burrell Sensei and the mysterious long-haired man with a strange gaze. Aluja Chan couldn't seem to look away from her master's swordsmanship. This was the kingdom of the Liist monarchy, home to great knights and adventurers. In fact, there were many heroes in their history, and that man was a master who also went by the nickname Backwater Swordmaster or the Swordmaster of the countryside. That day, a chariot was traveling towards the countryside. The coachman told a girl in the carriage that they had reached their destination. That morning, Burrell Sensei's father found Burrell Sensei practicing and mentioned that Burrell Sensei had yet to give him a grandchild. While wiping the sweat from his forehead, Burrell Sensei said that he had done well enough by taking over the dojo, which now had more students. But his father continued to insist and even asked if there were no beautiful students in Burrell Sensei's school. Burrell Sensei denies it and says that his sword school is not a place to find girls. Every warrior in the village has the same goal of becoming a knight or an adventurer. Burrell Sensei has been training since childhood and dreams of one day going to the city to save people with his sword. But in the end, Burrell Sensei could only be a teacher of basic sword lessons for self-protection. But Burrell Sensei felt that this job was perfect for him. While walking and remembering what his father had said about marriage, Burrell Sensei recalled that a student long ago had said that the girl student promised to marry Burrell Sensei when the student grew up in the future. Just then, a girl came to Burrell Sensei's training ground and addressed him as Sensei. Burrell Sensei seemed surprised that the girl was Aluja Chan. They sat together and talked. Burrell Sensei said that he was very surprised to see Aluja Chan because Aluja Chan has now grown up. Aluja Chan is the chief knight of Liberio, a girl of honor and the chief knight of the kingdom. Aluja Chan is Burrell Sensei's student since childhood. Burrell Sensei has seen Aluja Chan as a talented student, and Aluja Chan has always learned by watching and imitating. Burrell Sensei, now that 4 years have passed, there is no longer anything Burrell Sensei can teach Aluja Chan. When Aluja Chan left the dojo, Burrell Sensei gave her a sword as a gift. As they talked, Burrell Sensei kept looking at the sword Aluja Chan was carrying. Burrell Sensei then asked Aluja Chan if she always carried that sword with her, even though she could get a better one in town. Blushing, Aluja Chan said that the sword Burrell Sensei gave her was enough for her. Burrell Sensei then asks what brought Aluja Chan to the dojo. Aluja Chan said that she had become the head knight, who also taught her men martial arts. Hearing this, Burrell Sensei was amazed that his student had become an instructor responsible for guiding and training knights. This meant that Aluja Chan was the best swordsman in the kingdom. Burrell Sensei said that he was very proud of his student. Aluja Chan then revealed that she had recommended Burrell Sensei to be the special instructor of the Royal Knight unit. So basically, Aluja Chan and the other knights of the kingdom wanted to ask Burrell Sensei to be the instructor of the Royal Knights. Burrell Sensei was speechless as he listened to Burrell Sensei reveal that, because how could she be asked to be the sword instructor of the best swordsman of the kingdom of Liberio? Aluja Chan revealed that the kingdom had also sent a carriage to pick up Burrell Sensei, who was waiting at the front. Burrell Sensei was very surprised at the suddenness of this, showing the royal warrant. Aluja Chan revealed that Burrell Sensei must immediately rush to the instana as ordered. After getting ready, Burrell Sensei immediately boarded the carriage very awkwardly. Now they had arrived in Valaran, the capital of the Labaris kingdom, then headed straight to the Libero Knights official headquarters where all the knights were waiting for Burrell Sensei's arrival. In the hall, Aluja Chan then introduced Burrell Sensei to all the knights and declared that from now on, Burrell Sensei would be their special instructor and told all the knights to raise their expectations of Burrell Sensei. Burrell Sensei did not expect to be standing in front of over 100 very talented knights. Aluja Chan then revealed to the other knights that Burrell Sensei was far greater than herself. Then, Aluja Chan asked Burrell Sensei to say a few words. A nervous Burrell Sensei was at a loss for what to say. Everyone continued to watch their strange-looking new instructor. After the meeting, Aluja Chan and Burrell Sensei headed to the city center on a horse-drawn carriage. Burrell Sensei then asked how many times they had met instead of once. However, Aluja Chan revealed that since Burrell Sensei had many students in the dojo, Aluja Chan did not mind if Burrell Sensei came to the Knights' headquarters regularly. Burrell Sensei still couldn't understand his fate. Once in town, Aluja Chan took Burrell Sensei shopping for some food. However, Burrell Sensei felt that now he was being watched by many people. Perhaps it was because they were quite surprised why a head knight was walking with a middle-aged man like Burrell Sensei, so it seemed too conspicuous. As the two of them were talking, someone came over. The girl seemed to be wearing an Adventurers Guild plate on her chest. Burrell-sensei thought that the Katria girl might be an acquaintance of Aluja-chan. The girl looked very surprised when she looked at Burrell-sensei's face. Then, in surprise, the girl immediately approached Burrell-sensei and shook his body because the girl did not expect to meet Burrell-sensei again after 20 years of separation. Burrell-sensei realized that the girl was Slaya Leandra, an orphan that Burrell-sensei had found 20 years ago. At that time, Burrell-sensei also taught Leandra-chan the sword for 3 years before Leandra-chan was finally adopted and separated from Burrell-sensei. Seeing Leandra-chan holding on to Burrell-sensei, Aluja-chan became jealous and asked Lysandra-chan to release her grip on Burrell-sensei's shoulder. They stared at each other and argued while walking. Leandra-chan offers Burrell-sensei to mix into her union, but Aluja-chan immediately rejected her unilaterally by saying that Burrell-sensei would travel around us with her. Everyone continued to watch Burrell-sensei walking with the two great and famous knights of the kingdom. They then walked together and stopped by an iron and weapons shop. Yoko, who was watching the two former students, did not expect that everyone was gossiping and showing their admiration for the two great former students. The owner of the forge shop then invited them to take a look. While looking at all the swords, Burrell-sensei had no idea that he was in a place that produced swords for knights. The shop owner then came to Burrell-sensei and told him to try it out by letting him use the shop owner's heavy bag. The two former students couldn't wait to see Burrell-sensei use his sword, as it had been a long time since they had seen Burrell-sensei in action with his sword. In the use of a sword, even if it has a very sharp blade, a swordsman must use his strength even when cutting a fish, and the punching bag or makiwara developed in the East is made with a thickness worthy of a human body. Often, it is so thick that even many swords fail to cut through it, it would either break or bend. Burrell-sensei was now ready to grasp his sword, although his body was already exhausted for today. Burrell-sensei was not too worried because his sword was also good, so he just needed to concentrate. Burrell-sensei quickly slashed his sword at the makiwara, and in just an instant, the makiwara was cut but still stood up and did not fall down due to Burrell-sensei's sharp and powerful slashing power. The shop owner was speechless at Burrell-sensei's ability. The three of them then left the shop without buying anything. Lysandra-chan and Aluja-chan realized that the sword Burrell-sensei was using was a blunt sword. Immediately afterward, the shop owner rushed to his men in the back and scolded them for putting the unfinished sword in the front. The shopkeeper didn't believe in Burrell-sensei's great ability to cut down the thick makiwara using a blunt sword. The shopkeeper realized that the person was indeed the so-called backwater sword master, who was still in his prime and sharp. That night, Burrell-sensei returned to the dojo, thinking of himself as an instructor for the Royal Knights. Burrell-sensei also remembered the knights who looked at him strangely because, of course, they were also surprised to see someone like him coming in their midst. In addition, Aluya-chan's position as Burrell-sensei's recommender might also be jeopardized. Now, Burrell-sensei continued to think about how to solve all this. Perhaps when she arrived at the dojo, she would have an epiphany. But when he got home, Burrell-sensei's father said that Burrell-sensei should not go home first. AKA, his father sent Burrell-sensei away. Burrell-sensei sat there not understanding what his father was actually doing, but inevitably, Burrell-sensei had to leave. Burrell-sensei then returned to Aluya-chan's house and said that he had been kicked out of the house. Aluya-chan wondered how Burrell-sensei could have been kicked out. It turned out that a few moments ago, when Burrell-sensei arrived home, there was a student sitting with his father. That student was Land, who had returned after becoming an adventurer. After greeting Burrell-sensei, Land revealed that he was married and had a newborn child. So, Land was thinking of retiring from adventuring. Burrell-sensei stared and wondered that a student younger than him could get married earlier than Burrell-sensei, who was old and was his teacher. Burrell-sensei then asked about what Land's next plan was. Burrell-sensei's father woke up and said that his father had handed over the dojo to Land to manage and told Burrell-sensei to focus on the Ball Train Kingdom only. Burrell-sensei was shocked to hear that. His father even added that Burrell-sensei must find a bride before returning home. Aluya-chan, who was listening, was shocked and said it seemed like good news, but Burrell-sensei was even more shocked and said that he had to find an inn first. So, he asked Aluya-chan to help him find one. But Aluya-chan offered her own house, but obviously, that's not allowed. After that, Burrell-sensei and Aluja-chan went to the Adventurers Guild to meet Rander-chan. Burrell-sensei did not expect the guild to be so crowded. They then met Rander-chan, who had just woken up from her sleep and was still wearing her sexy nightwear. Rander-chan was surprised by the arrival of Burrell-sensei, who was known to have returned to the dojo since yesterday. After sitting down and explaining everything, Rander-chan finally understood and accepted Burrell-sensei's request to help her find a cheap and good place to stay. Rander-chan then revealed that there was an inn near the Adventurers Guild. So it was safe to say that it was very safe. Aluya-chan interrupted her and said that since Burrell-sensei would be going to the Knights' headquarters frequently, it would be best if Burrell-sensei stayed at Aluya-chan's house for convenience. Rander-chan did not want to lose by standing up and arguing with Aluya-chan. Until they were silent for a moment and then pulled out each of their swords to attack each other. But before the swords could be exhaled, Burrell-sensei quickly climbed onto the table and took their swords away without the two girls even realizing it. They continued to argue until they finally helped Burrell-sensei to find his lodging. When Burrell-sensei arrived and was welcomed in by the innkeeper, Burrell-sensei felt that the inn was quite nice, although it was a little far from the headquarters in the Adventurers Guild but close to the market and the blacksmith. However, Burrell-sensei was still thinking about Aluya-chan, who had been looking glum and complaining. As far as he could see, that night Burrell-sensei was sitting on a chair enjoying his sake. Burrell-sensei was quite frustrated with his current situation, where his life was miserable because his two students helped so far, which they were also teachers and were related to the main inn, while he was just a middle-aged man. Burrell-sensei was still curious about what Aluya-chan had expected from Burrell-sensei. So far, Burrell-sensei could only contemplate while drinking his sake. The next day, a disheveled Burrell-sensei and Aluya-chan walked to the Knights' training grounds. Burrell-sensei then saw a knight who caught his attention by practicing using a very powerful twisting technique to attack opponents. Burrell-sensei was really worried about the horrible training because the knights could have been killed by using real swords. Aluya-chan then announced to all the knights that starting on Monday, they would be practicing with Burrell-sensei, who would also give them guidance. However, some of the knights seemed to look down on her, making Burrell-sensei feel hurt and uncomfortable with this atmosphere. Suddenly, a girl knight called Burrell-sensei from the line of knights. It was Karuni-chan, a former student of Burrell-sensei, who had not expected Karuni-chan to become a great knight. But Karuni-chan said that she was still far from great and was very happy to be taught again by Burrell-sensei. Because at that time, Karuni-chan only studied for 2 years at the dojo. Burrell-sensei became more and more tearful at the sight of all this and felt left behind by his 3 students. Burrell-sensei felt at the lowest point in his life. Just then, a knight that Burrell-sensei had noticed earlier came up to them and introduced himself as Han Blitz-Drought, who had been assigned as the vice commander of the knights. Hearing that, Burrell-sensei was not surprised that Han Bliss's presence felt like a strong knight since yesterday. Even Burrell-sensei felt a murderous air from Han Bliss. Perhaps this was all because Ribeiro was a knight with pride, so of course, Hannes needed to be recognized about it. Burrell-sensei was curious about Hannes, who was a vice commander. Heist then hotmat with his sword at Burrell-sensei, saying that Han Bliss needed his direction and called Burrell-sensei Burrell Dono. Aluya-chan continued to stare at Burrell-sensei with the feeling that now Burrell-sensei finally had a ray of light again. While looking at Heist, who gave him a sword as a sign of respect. Please note that the Ribeiro Knights are the kingdom's strongest knight force. It is a handful of elites who are the pride of the kingdom and undergo very strict training. And there is one member of Ribeiro who is said to have the strength equivalent to 10 knights of other countries. That is the vice commander, Hen Blist. Even Hen Blist is also the best sword user. Feeling in a serious situation when seeing Hen Blist brandishing his sword, Burrell-sensei then refused as doubt filled his heart. It was very serious even though it was a light match, and it would be a shame if Burrell-sensei lost against him. Burrell-sensei hoped that Aluya-chan would stop this, but Aluya-chan said that this would be an opportunity and a lesson for the night. Burrell-sensei was shocked and distraught, but inevitably Burrell-sensei had to accept this match. Now the two of them faced each other with several knights already gathered to watch this match. Karuni-chan was very worried about Burrell-sensei because this was the first time Karuni-chan had seen Burrell-sensei compete. Also, everyone knew that the vice commander was a superhuman who could stop a rampaging cow with just a stick of wood. There were some knights who imitated that ability and broke their wrists instead. Aluya-chan continued to try to calm down Karuni-chan, who looked very worried about Burrell-sensei. Hick continued to stare at Burrell-sensei in front of him. Hick was thrilled to learn that Aluya-chan's commanding teacher would be their trainer during this time. Oblitz-kun had also heard rumors about the legendary Kataka-nun, which made Oblitz-kun curious. When the sword user prospective trainer arrived, Oblitz saw him as nothing more than a middle-aged man who could not feel the sword's intent. Hitz even had a suspicion that the sword user had asked the commander to make him the knight's trainer. And if that was true, how could a worm fight a knight? Seeing the deputy commander's attitude, Burrell-sensei suspected that Oblitz had the intention of killing him. Burrell-sensei then prepared by holding his wooden sword and focused on not losing this fight. They stared at each other, and the fight began. Oblitz immediately swiftly attacked Burrell-sensei with his sword. But very quickly, even unnoticed by the human eye, Burrell-sensei was able to dodge and reverse the situation by holding Oblitz-kun's neck with his wooden sword until it almost fell down. Aluja-chan watched as Oblitz directly attacked Burrell-sensei by striking Burrell-sensei directly in the throat, and then turning it into an attack on Burrell-sensei's empty right torso. But Burrell-sensei managed to parry it and moved his hand up to make Hitz lose his balance. Seeing this, Burrell-sensei immediately attacked the neck of Oblitz, who was down. After that first battle, they started again. Oblitz-kun continued to throw everything he had at Burrell-sensei, who continued to hold back and counterattack it. Even left the vice commander battered and overwhelmed, but the vice commander seemed to be standing his ground. Aluya-chan thought that Burrell-sensei's most important factor in his strength was his eyes, which could see his opponent's breathing, detect his body's weight, and his extraordinary will to fight. Even his eyes could see through invisible gaps like pinholes. Attack after attack was withstood and returned by Burrell-sensei, and even Hablet began to get battered and felt almost hopeless. But Hablet still had the determination to attack again and defeat Burrell-sensei. But it seemed that the attack was useless. The vice commander, who had no other choice, then activated his sword skill, Kangiri, by spinning and hovering in the air and splitting the enemy's defense in two, the vice commander's mainstay ability. Yet again, Burrell-sensei evaded the deadly attack with such ease that the deputy commander fell to his knees and gawked at the realization that Burrell-sensei's swordsmanship was real. Seeing that battle, Aluya-chan remembered the time when she fought Kritz and the determination of the Royal Knight Commander. Aluja-chan had beaten him soundly back then, and if it hadn't been for Kritz, he would have been the commander by now. Back to the battle between Burrell-sensei and Hitz, which further cornered Kritz and overwhelmed him. Now the deputy commander Kritz was completely outmatched by Burrell-sensei and made everyone clap their hands in recognition of Burrell-sensei's prowess in this fight. After a while, Commander Aluya-chan stopped the fight because she had already found a winner. The night after the battle, Burrell-sensei and his 3 former students went to a tavern to celebrate Burrell-sensei becoming an instructor. Burrell-sensei kept an eye on Aluya-chan, who was so excited that she drank a large glass of beer in one go and ate the meat on their table with such gusto that she forgot all about herself. Burrell-sensei then offered to ask Aluya-chan if she wanted to order some lag. Aluya-chan was instantly shocked and blushed with embarrassment for having forgotten herself. Burrell-sensei was speechless, not expecting that the day to drink with his 3 former students would finally come. Then someone came to offer Burrell-sensei a drink. It turned out to be the deputy commander of Kritz, who had healed his wounds and came to join the celebration. Burrell-sensei then thanked them for taking the trouble to organize such a celebration. Kritz said that Burrell-sensei shouldn't worry too much because the food in the tavern wasn't that expensive. While pouring a drink into Burrell-sensei's glass, Aluya-chan grimaced. Even though Aluya-chan wanted to pour Burrell-sensei a drink as well, Kritz then revealed that so far, many union members, including himself, had thanked Burrell-sensei. Kritz also expressed his apologies for being disrespectful to Burrell-sensei with all his heart. Kritz bowed and shouted that Kritz admired Burrell-sensei. Kritz also felt ashamed that he had not even trusted Burrell-sensei. The girls thought it looked like the vice commander was drunk. Aluya-chan then revealed that she too had said that even a commander like Aluya-chan could not fight Burrell-sensei. Aluya-chan then asked Burrell-sensei what he thought about Kritz-kun's abilities during the duel while eating his meat. Burrell-sensei revealed that the vice commander Kritz-kun was quite strong and even had stronger hands than the average person, especially in that twisted slash earlier. Even that attack made Burrell-sensei raise one leg to avoid the attack. If he had not been able to dodge, Burrell-sensei could have been slashed and split by the sword. Hearing that, Kritz-kun thought Burrell-sensei was able to analyze the attack in such a short time. Burrell-sensei also added that he could die if he was hit by the attack, so there was no choice but to twist to avoid the attack. Burrell-sensei then advised Kritz-kun that if an opponent could reach Kritz-kun's backside during the twisting slash, that opponent would be able to avoid the sword slash and reach H's blind spot. So Kritz had to find a solution to that possibility. Kritz immediately stood up and bowed before Burrell-sensei again, saying that Burrell-sensei was the person the knights needed most. So Kritz-kun begged Burrell-sensei to continue guiding the knights from now on. Hearing that request made Burrell-sensei think that even the knight class still didn't know what their future would be like. So Burrell-sensei shouldn't be half-hearted about this. While patting the shoulder of Kritz, who continued to bow, Burrell-sensei asked for their cooperation to do this. Kritz woke up and said that he felt like he was dreaming of meeting the famous backwater swordsman. Burrell-sensei was surprised and didn't understand the nickname. They went back to talking and spent the rest of the night celebrating at the tavern. After the celebration and dinner, Aluja-chan sat down on a lawn chair near the tavern and regretted drinking in front of Burrell-sensei. Aluja-chan worried that Burrell-sensei might have thought of her as an impolite woman. But Aluja-chan thought she should lower her guard now that her plan was working. Watching the previous fight between Burrell-sensei and Hembritz, Aluja-chan recalled the time when her series also managed to avoid H's spinning attack. But her training sword was the victim. Aluja-chan sat pensively, staring at the moon in the night sky, remembering the sword Burrell-sensei had given her at the dojo, which Burrell-sensei had said was their parting gift. In addition, Burrell-sensei had given the sword to his students who had mastered all of his techniques at the dojo, meaning that there was nothing more Burrell-sensei could teach Aluja-chan. At that time, Aluja-chan was shocked and said that her level was far below Burrell-sensei. But Burrell-sensei denied it and said that Aluja-chan only looked up to Burrell-sensei as her teacher. After all, Aluja-chan was a talented girl. So Burrell-sensei thought Aluja-chan's level was too high to be stuck in this dojo. Aluja-chan could only remain silent and confused as to why Burrell-sensei was being so condescending. But there was no other choice but to follow Burrell-sensei's words and leave the dojo. Since then, Aluja-chan has set her plans and goals for her life. After that, Aluja-chan went to the city center to take the Royal Knight selection. At that time, after taking the written exam, all the people had begun to notice Aluja-chan, who was very talented and ranked first. That's when the next test, a duel with a fellow knight, began. Aluja-chan was able to defeat everyone, even the instructor of the troop itself. Aluja-chan was really very good and mastered all the duel matches with everyone. Aluja-chan thought that even the strongest knight in the kingdom was no match for Burrell-sensei. After that, Aluja-chan was made a knight and the youngest commander because of her talent. After that, Aluja-chan was even offered to become the kingdom's knight instructor because the kingdom felt that there was no one greater than Aluja-chan. When she accepted the offer, Aluja-chan had been waiting for this moment, which was when Aluja-chan recommended someone more suitable than her, Burrell-sensei. So the reason Aluja-chan became a knight was to set the stage for Burrell-sensei. Perhaps if people knew all this, they would think that Aluja-chan was nothing more than a selfish girl, but she didn't feel that she had any ambitions like the other knights. All Aluja-chan could think about was that so far, many people didn't know about Burrell-sensei's swordsmanship, so it was too difficult to keep it to herself. At that moment, Aluja-chan remembered the day she was bruised from training and ran away crying under a tree. Burrell-sensei came to her and tried to comfort her by telling her that she could rest easy if Aluja-chan wasn't hurt because Burrell-sensei was actually very worried about his students getting hurt. Hearing this, Aluja-chan felt very emotional and hugged Burrell-sensei. So far, that was Aluja-chan's plan, to show the world Burrell-sensei's swordsmanship. And from now on, Aluja-chan was determined to build a new era, and in the future, Burrell-sensei should be called the Swordmaster. At the same time, Burrell-sensei had stumbled back to the inn and immediately laid down on the bed after drinking too much during the celebration with his students earlier. In a library, two girls were talking about the unfortunate news of Vice Commander Libero being defeated in a duel. The light-haired girl was even worried about Vice Commander Kritz, who hoped his cute face was okay. The dark-haired girl named Fissel was looking for a book on the shelf and asked about the person who had defeated the Vice Commander. The light-haired girl then mentioned that someone named Backwater, who was an instructor, had defeated the Deputy Commander Kritz Kunin. Hearing her friend's confession, Fissel-chan was then surprised that it was Burrell-sensei who was mentioned. So Fissel-chan was also one of Burrell-sensei's students at the dojo. Meanwhile, the Knight Center Karuni-chan explained to Burrell-sensei that in the western part of the city is the shopping district, which has a lot of shops. And of course, it's not free from fights either, so the knights often patrolled the area. After finishing training with the knights, Burrell-sensei rested with Karuni-chan and Kritz Kunan in the training corridor. Karuni-chan then asked Burrell-sensei if Burrell-sensei was getting used to the city. Burrell-sensei revealed that he felt so, even though there was no time to go anywhere other than the Liberio Knight Center. Hits revealed that there are many famous places in Valter, such as the Giant Tree Park and also the monument to the hero Lucky. So there was nothing wrong with Burrell-sensei spending his time traveling around after coming all the way to this city. Hearing that, Karuni-chan offered to show Burrell-sensei around the city since Karuni-chan would also be on patrol duty in the west. It seemed like it would be best if Burrell-sensei went along with Karuni-chan for a tour. They finally arrived at the largest market in the West. When he saw the huge and crowded market, Burrell-sensei was amazed. Karuni-chan also asked Burrell-sensei to buy whatever Burrell-sensei needed there. But Burrell-sensei was stunned because he was just an old hick who didn't even know where to go, considering there were too many shops there. While continuing to accompany Karuni-chan to look at clothes, a person with robes and a mysterious face approached Burrell-sensei and called his name. When Karuni-chan recognized the person, Burrell-sensei just continued to be curious and watched who the person who looked familiar was. But when Burrell-sensei noticed the sword she was carrying and saw the girl removing the hood of her cloak,